Hello there and welcome to the Sleepy Computer Scientist channel. Tonight we drift back through the digital corridors of time to explore the remarkable history of Xbox, a console that fundamentally changed how we think about gaming, online connectivity, and what it means to be part of a gaming community. Xbox is not just a piece of hardware, it is a story of ambition, innovation, failure, redemption, and the relentless pursuit of bringing interactive entertainment into the homes of millions around the world. For over 2 decades, Xbox has been at the forefront of gaming console evolution, competing fiercely with Sony's PlayStation and Nintendo's various platforms. But more than that, Xbox has been a mirror reflecting the dreams and aspirations of Microsoft, a company known for software and personal computers, stepping boldly into the world of interactive entertainment. This is not simply a tale of technology and specifications. It is a human story about taking risks, learning from mistakes, and adapting to a rapidly changing world. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through technology and history, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share your thoughts in the comments below. It helps other curious minds find their way here, one sleepy tech enthusiast at a time. But for now, just breathe, settle in, and let the gentle flow of gaming history carry you. Let us begin. To truly understand Xbox, we must first understand the world it entered. In the late 1990s, the gaming industry was dominated by a few key players. Sony's PlayStation had revolutionized console gaming with its CD-ROM technology and 3-dimensional graphics capabilities. Nintendo, though aging with a Nintendo 64, remained a beloved fixture in homes worldwide. Sega was struggling but still present with the Dreamcast, a console that was technically impressive but failed to capture sufficient market share. The console wars were fierce, and the stakes were extraordinarily high. Microsoft, founded by Bill Gates and Paul Allen, had spent decades building an empire on personal computers and software. The company had achieved massive success with Windows operating systems, Office productivity suites, and various business applications. But gaming was largely absent from Microsoft's portfolio. The personal computer had games, certainly, but Microsoft had never seriously considered building a dedicated gaming console. That would all change when a small team of visionaries within Microsoft began to ask a simple question: what if a computer company made a console? In 1999, Microsoft began exploring the gaming market seriously. The company saw the potential in the console space, recognizing that the living room represented an untapped frontier for the technology industry. At the time, the PlayStation had proven that consoles could generate billions in revenue and shape popular culture in profound ways. Microsoft executives, including Robbie Beck and Ed Fries, believed they could bring the power of personal computing to the console space while introducing something entirely new: seamless online connectivity and a thriving digital ecosystem centered around gaming. The original Xbox was conceived during a time when the internet was becoming ubiquitous, but before broadband was universally available. Despite this limitation, Microsoft envisioned a console that would be fundamentally connected, a device that would use the power of the internet to create new forms of gaming experiences. The company recruited talented engineers and designers, drawing many from the PC gaming world where they had deep experience building high-performance systems. Microsoft's approach was different from Nintendo's and Sony's. Rather than creating custom chips and proprietary hardware, Xbox was essentially a specialized personal computer. It featured an Intel Pentium 3 processor, an NVIDIA graphics processing unit, and a hard drive, something no previous console had included. The hard drive was revolutionary. It meant that games could be installed, that player progress could be saved locally, and that future updates could be downloaded. This decision alone positioned Xbox as forward-thinking and fundamentally different from its competitors. The name itself, Xbox, carried significance. According to law within the company, it was called the Xbox initially as a working title, inspired by the mathematical variable X representing the unknown, the cutting edge, and the experimental. When focus groups tested the name, they responded positively, and Xbox became the official branding. It was simple, memorable, and suggested power and innovation. The design of the original Xbox was equally bold. Created by designer Horace Luke, the console featured a distinctive black and green aesthetic, with an unusual curved shape that made it instantly recognizable on a shelf. Some people loved it, while others found it less elegant than the sleek PlayStation 2, which launched around the same time. But the Xbox did not need to be beautiful. It needed to be powerful, connected, and different. In that regard, it succeeded spectacularly. On November 15, 2001, Microsoft officially launched the Xbox in North America. The timing was strategic, arriving just 3 days before the PlayStation 2 launch in the same region, giving Microsoft first-mover advantage in the North American market. The launch price was $499, matching the PlayStation 2's price point exactly. This was a bold move, suggesting to consumers that Xbox was offering equivalent value to Sony's already established brand. The launch lineup of games was crucial to Xbox's success. Microsoft knew they could not compete on brand recognition or installed base. They could only compete on hardware power and software quality. The launch titles included Halo, Combat Evolved, which would become one of the most important and iconic franchises in gaming history. Developed by Bungie, Halo was unlike anything the console market had seen before. It was a first-person shooter designed from the ground up for console gameplay, with a revolutionary control scheme using the thumbsticks and triggers in ways that felt natural and intuitive. Halo was not just a good game, it was a system seller. Journalists and consumers who played it marveled at how smooth and responsive it felt, how well optimized it was for console play, and how engaging the single-player campaign was. The game included a compelling science fiction story, engaging multiplayer modes, and a level of polish that rivaled or exceeded PC shooters. For many people, Halo was the reason they bought an Xbox, and it remained the flagship franchise for Microsoft's console throughout its life cycle. Beyond Halo, the launch included other titles like Amped, a snowboarding game, Project Gotham Racing, a racing simulator, and Dead or Alive 3, a fighting game. Microsoft also emphasized that the Xbox hard drive would allow for game installations and downloadable content, a feature that console gamers were not yet accustomed to. The company was positioning Xbox as not just a gaming device, but as a connected entertainment hub. If Halo was the software that drove Xbox sales, then Xbox Live was the service that defined the console's legacy and changed gaming forever. Launching in November 2002, Xbox Live was a revelation. For the first time on a console, players could connect online to play multiplayer games without needing a PC, additional software, or technical expertise. Console gamers had experienced online multiplayer before through accessories and services, but nothing had been this seamless or comprehensive. Xbox Live featured a unified online service with a standardized approach to authentication, matchmaking, and social features. Every Xbox came with an Ethernet port, and broadband was becoming more common in American households. The service was not free. It required a subscription, initially priced at $50 per year in North America. A controversial decision at the time, but one that would prove sustainable and valuable. The subscription-funded server infrastructure, customer support, and continued development of online services. What made Xbox Live truly revolutionary was not just that it allowed online play, it was the social infrastructure around it. Players had gamer tags that persisted across games, friend lists that they could carry from one title to another, voice chat through a headset, and achievement systems that tracked accomplishments across the entire library. Before Xbox Live, online gaming was fragmented. Each game had its own servers, its own authentication system, its own community. Xbox Live unified it all into one ecosystem. The voice chat feature deserves special mention. While primitive by modern standards, the ability to speak to other players in real time fundamentally changed multiplayer gaming. Suddenly, teammates could coordinate strategy, rivals could talk trash, and gaming became not just a solitary experience but a social one. This social aspect attracted players who might not have otherwise considered themselves hardcore gamers. Xbox Live made gaming social, accessible, and fun in ways that extended beyond just the gameplay itself. As the Xbox platform matured from 2001 through 2005, a library of exceptional games accumulated. Beyond Halo, which received 2 major sequels during the generation, Xbox played host to other significant franchises. Splinter Cell brought stealth-based gameplay to the platform. Knights of the Old Republic, developed by BioWare, delivered a massive role-playing game set in the Star Wars universe that rivaled console role-playing game offering from PlayStation. Grand Theft Auto 3 and its sequels arrived on Xbox, bringing open-world mayhem to the console in stunning fashion. Project Gotham Racing evolved into a respected racing series. Fable promised players a revolutionary role-playing experience where their choices would genuinely affect the game world. Kung Fu Chaos, Jade Empire, Dead Rising, and countless others filled out a respectable library. Microsoft's decision to invest in exclusive franchises and to support third-party developers created an ecosystem where interesting games flourished. One cannot discuss the original Xbox without mentioning backwards compatibility, or rather, the lack of it. Unlike some previous gaming transitions, Xbox could not play original PlayStation games or Nintendo 64 cartridges. It was a clean break, and while this was not unusual, it meant that existing console gamers had to make a choice about which new console to support. Some stayed loyal to PlayStation, others switched to Xbox, drawn by the power of the hardware and the appeal of online gaming through Xbox Live. The original Xbox's lifespan as the primary Microsoft console lasted roughly 5 years, from launch in 2001 until the announcement and eventual arrival of the Xbox 360 in 2005. During those 5 years, the console sold over 16 million units worldwide, establishing Microsoft as a legitimate player in the console market. More importantly, it proved that a company from outside the traditional video game industry could compete at the highest level and introduce genuinely innovative services like Xbox Live that would reshape the entire industry. The significance of the original Xbox cannot be overstated. It was the foundation upon which everything that followed would be built. Microsoft proved that they understood gaming, that they were willing to invest in great software, and that they could build online services that enhanced the gaming experience in meaningful ways. The Xbox Live service, more than anything else, positioned Microsoft for a long-term success in gaming. The original Xbox also demonstrated that the console market was not closed to new entrants. For decades, gaming had been dominated by Nintendo and Sega, and then by Nintendo and Sony. The idea that a software company like Microsoft could enter the space seemed unlikely. Yet here was a console with impressive hardware, a legendary launch title in Halo, and an online service that was years ahead of what PlayStation could offer. The original Xbox showed that innovation, investment, and vision could overcome the inertia of established brands. Moreover, the decision to include a hard drive in the console proved prescient. Years later, the PlayStation 2 would add a network adapter, and subsequent consoles would make hard drives standard. Microsoft's choice to include one from the beginning positioned Xbox not just as a gaming device, but as a computer, capable of storing data, playing content beyond just games, and connecting to digital services. This vision would become increasingly important as the internet's role in gaming expanded. The cultural impact of the original Xbox, particularly through Halo and Xbox Live, cannot be understated. Halo created a new generation of console gamers who loved first-person shooters and who were willing to play online competitively. Xbox Live created communities, rivalries, and friendships that persisted beyond the console itself. People remember where they were when they first played Halo, the first time they used voice chat on Xbox Live, the friends they made through online gaming. These were formative memories for millions of people, and they were enabled by the original Xbox and the ecosystem that Microsoft built around it. On May 10th, 2005, Microsoft announced the Xbox 360 at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles. The name itself signified something revolutionary. The number 360 degrees meant a complete revolution, a full turn. Microsoft was not just making a sequel to the original Xbox, they were completely reimagining what a console could be. The announcement generated enormous excitement and skepticism in equal measure. The PlayStation 3 was also on the horizon, and Nintendo was preparing something called the Wii, which would use motion controls instead of traditional buttons and sticks. The design of the Xbox 360 was a departure from the original. Instead of the distinctive black and green box, the 360 featured a white, horizontally oriented chassis with a curved design that looked futuristic and appealing. The controller retained the traditional layout that had proven successful on the original Xbox, but it was refined and improved. The system featured DVD playback built in, something increasingly expected in consumer electronics at the time. The hard drive was faster and more spacious than the original Xboxes. The graphics processing power was a significant leap forward. Microsoft announced that the Xbox 360 would launch in multiple waves. In November 2005, it would arrive in North America first, giving Microsoft several months of head start before the PlayStation 3 and Wii would launch in later months and early 2006. This staggered launch strategy was intentional. Microsoft wanted to establish market share and build a library of exclusive games before facing competition from Sony's more powerful system and Nintendo's innovative controller. The Xbox 360 launched in North America on November 22, 2005, and the reception was overwhelming. The console was seen as powerful, with impressive graphics capabilities that were a generational leap forward from the original Xbox. The launch lineup was strong, featuring games like Perfect Dark Zero, a sequel to a Nintendo 64 classic that was now exclusive to Xbox, as well as Call of Duty 2, a breakout shooter that would become one of the platform's most important franchises. Xbox Live was significantly improved on the 360. The service had matured considerably since 2002. The infrastructure was more robust, the achievement system was more sophisticated, and the social features were deeper. The integration between hardware and online service was seamless. Friends lists, parties, voice chat, and the ability to navigate the dashboard while in games were all standard features that other platforms were still working to replicate. However, The Xbox 360's launch was shadowed by a hardware issue that would plague the console throughout its lifecycle. The Red Ring of Death, as it became known, referred to the 3 red lights that appeared on the front of the console when it experienced a fatal hardware error. The cause was primarily related to overheating and inadequate cooling design, combined with the heat generated by advanced graphics processors and processors running at high clock speeds. The failure rate was estimated to be as high as 30% in the first year, an extraordinarily high number for a consumer electronics device. The Red Ring of Death became a phenomenon. It was discussed extensively on forums, joked about by comedians, and became a source of frustration for countless players. Microsoft eventually acknowledged the problem and extended the warranty to 3 years for Red Ring of Death failures, absorbing billions of dollars in replacement and repair costs. The company also gradually improved the hardware through revised versions of the console, though the issue was never completely eliminated. The Red Ring of Death became synonymous with the Xbox 360, a reminder that even successful products can have significant flaws. Throughout its life cycle, the Xbox 360 was available in multiple versions and SKUs. The original white model was joined by black versions in various iterations. The Elite model, introduced in 2007, featured a black chassis, a larger hard drive, and an HDMI port for higher quality video output. The S model, released in 2010, featured improved hardware, built-in Wi-Fi, improved cooling, and a much lower failure rate than previous models. Later, a model called the E was released, which refined the design further. The controller line also expanded. While the standard controller remained popular, Microsoft introduced the Xbox 360 wireless controller, which used an improved wireless protocol and offered better range and reliability than earlier wireless options. The Mad Catz and other third-party manufacturers created alternative controllers with different features and aesthetics. The controller became iconic in its own right, with many gamers preferring it to controllers on other platforms. One of the most significant accessories was the Kinect, which I will discuss in depth in the next section. But it is worth noting here that Kinect represented a major moment in Xbox 360's life cycle, turning it into something more than just a gaming device. The Kinect was released in November 2010 and represented Microsoft's answer to the Nintendo Wii's motion controls, but with a twist. Rather than requiring controllers, Kinect used an array of cameras and sensors to track the player's body in 3-dimensional space. The Xbox 360 also received a dashboard update called the New Xbox Experience in 2008, which dramatically changed how players interacted with the console. The new dashboard was organized around avatars, personalized profiles, and a more visual-oriented interface. Players could create customizable avatars that represented them on Xbox Live. The dashboard evolution continued throughout the console's lifecycle, with various updates adding streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others, turning the Xbox 360 into an entertainment hub beyond just gaming. The Xbox 360's library of exclusive games was arguably the strongest of any generation for Microsoft. Halo returned with Halo 3 in 2007, continuing the Master Chief saga in a game that many consider one of the greatest first-person shooters ever made. Halo 3 concluded the original trilogy with a bang, delivering a campaign that audiences found satisfying and multiplayer features that defined online gaming for a generation. Beyond Halo, Microsoft's internal studios and exclusive partners delivered remarkable games. Gears of War, developed by Epic Games in 2006, introduced a new franchise that was exclusive to Xbox and became a flagship title. The game pioneered the use of cover-based shooting mechanics in a third-person perspective, a style that became standard across the industry. Gears of War was followed by 2 sequels during the Xbox 360 generation, each of which was a major release that sold millions of copies. BioWare, a studio that had worked with Microsoft on the original Xbox, created the Mass Effect franchise for the Xbox 360. Mass Effect, released in 2007, was a massive role-playing game that blended shooter mechanics with deep storytelling and character development. The franchise became one of the most successful exclusive properties in gaming, with 2 sequels released during the 360 generation and a 4th game arriving after the next generation of consoles. Splinter Cell received new iterations on the 360, including Chaos Theory and Conviction, further establishing the franchise on the platform. Forza Motorsport and its sequel, Forza Motorsport 2, provided racing enthusiasts with an excellent exclusive racing simulation, The Elder Scrolls 4. Oblivion arrived on the 360 with a version that rivaled the PC version in many respects, and demonstrated that the console could handle expansive role-playing games with massive worlds. While exclusive games were important for establishing Xbox's identity, the support from third-party publishers was equally crucial. Games like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, and numerous other major releases arrived on Xbox 360, often simultaneously with PlayStation 3 versions. Publishers saw the value in reaching the Xbox audience, which was large, engaged, and willing to spend money on games and online services. One significant aspect of Xbox's strategy was the relationship with publishers and development studios. Microsoft invested in partnerships, providing development support and sometimes funding to third-party developers who created games on the platform. This approach helped ensure that major releases came to Xbox, and that the console had a diverse library of both exclusive and third-party titles. The online functionality of Xbox Live also became increasingly important for third-party publishers. The network allowed for regular updates, patches, and downloadable content to be distributed to players. Games that previously would have been static became living, evolving services. Players could download new maps, new weapons, new cosmetics, and other content regularly. This service model became standard across the industry, and Xbox Live was one of the pioneers in making it work effectively on a console platform. The rise of Xbox Live Arcade, a service for downloading smaller games, proved another crucial piece of the 360's success. Independent developers and smaller studios could publish games on Xbox Live Arcade without needing a major publisher's backing. Games like Geometry Wars, Castle Crashers, and numerous others found audiences on Xbox Live Arcade and built communities. This democratization of game publishing on a console platform was relatively novel and contributed to the console's success. The Kinect sensor represented one of the most ambitious attempts by Microsoft to expand the Xbox 360's appeal beyond traditional gamers. Announced at E3 2009 and released in November 2010, Kinect was a motion capture device that used a combination of camera technology, depth sensors, and microphones to track player movement in real time without requiring a controller. The technology was genuinely innovative. The depth sensor used infrared light to detect the distance of objects from the camera, creating a 3-dimensional map of the room and everything in it. Unlike the Nintendo Wii's motion controls, which required players to hold controllers and move them, Kinect tracked the entire body. Players could wave their arms, kick, dance, jump, and move freely, and the console would recognize and respond to their movements. For anyone who tried Kinect when it was demonstrated at trade shows or in retail environments, it felt like something from science fiction. The development of Kinect was led by Microsoft's Applied Sciences division and involved collaboration with various computer vision researchers. The technology had potential applications far beyond gaming, including gesture recognition for interfaces, fitness tracking, and accessibility features for disabled users. However, Kinect's primary target audience was the console market, specifically the expanding audience of casual gamers that the Nintendo Wii had successfully attracted. The initial Kinect launch lineup included titles like Kinect Sports, which included activities like bowling, tennis, and track and field events. Kinect Adventures provided a series of mini-games designed to showcase the technology's capabilities. These games were intentionally simple, designed to appeal to non-gamers and casual players. The theory was that by offering motion-controlled games accessible to anyone, Kinect could expand the Xbox 360's audience beyond the traditional hardcore gaming demographic. In its first few weeks on the market, Kinect became a cultural phenomenon. It was the fastest-selling consumer electronics device in history at the time, with millions of units sold. People who had never considered themselves gamers were buying Kinect to play Kinect Sports or to use fitness games. Dance Central, a game that used Kinect to judge dance moves and assign scores, became a hit with casual audiences and at parties. The mainstream media took notice of Kinect in ways they rarely did with gaming hardware. News programs ran stories about Kinect, celebrities were seen using it, and it became a talking point in homes and offices around the world. This mainstream attention was valuable for Microsoft because it expanded the perception of Xbox from being just a gaming machine to being an entertainment device with broader cultural relevance. However, as with many technologies that find mainstream success, there was a disparity between the hype and the reality. While Kinect was impressive from a technological standpoint, the games designed for it were often shallow, repetitive, or gimmicky. The motion tracking, while remarkably accurate in many ways, could be finicky and sometimes required players to stand in specific ways or positions to be properly recognized. Hardcore gamers were largely unimpressed, viewing Kinect as a distraction from the core gaming experience. The bundling of Kinect with the Xbox 360S in later years meant that every new Xbox 360 owner had the device, whether they wanted it or not. This raised the price of the console and frustrated gamers who had no interest in motion controls. There was also privacy concern, as Kinect included a camera and microphone always connected to the console, raising questions about data collection and surveillance, though Microsoft maintained that no data was being collected without user consent. Despite initial enthusiasm, Kinect's long-term impact on gaming proved limited. While the device sold millions of units, the exclusive games that truly leveraged its capabilities were relatively few. Most games that incorporated Kinect did so as an optional feature rather than a core component of the experience. Developers struggled with creating engaging gameplay experiences that relied on motion controls without traditional buttons and sticks. One area where Kinect found genuine success was fitness and health applications. Games like Kinect Sports Season 2, which included activities like American football, baseball, and golf, found audiences among people interested in casual physical activity. Third-party fitness applications used Kinect to track user movements and provide personalized workout experiences. While these were not traditional video games, they represented a valid application of the technology. By the time the next generation of Xbox consoles arrived, the enthusiasm for Kinect had significantly cooled. The technology had proven to be more limited than the hype suggested, and the mainstream audience that Microsoft had hoped to attract through motion controls had largely moved on to smartphones and tablets for casual gaming. Kinect represented an interesting experiment in expanding the definition of gaming, but ultimately it was more of a tangent in gaming history than a fundamental shift in how people played games. The legacy of Kinect, however, extends beyond gaming. The depth sensing technology that Kinect pioneered influenced subsequent camera systems used in augmented reality applications, robotics, and computer vision generally. Microsoft itself used insights from Kinect development in creating HoloLens, a mixed reality headset. So while Kinect's impact on gaming was ultimately limited, its impact on computer vision and sensor technology was more significant. The announcement of the Xbox One in May 2013 was meant to be a triumphant moment for Microsoft. The company was introducing the next generation of gaming, a console that would be more powerful than the PlayStation 4, which had been announced months earlier. However, the announcement revealed a vision for Xbox One that was so controversial, so fundamentally misaligned with what gamers wanted, that it nearly derailed the console's entire life cycle before it began. The original vision for Xbox One centered on what Microsoft called digital distribution and always connected gaming. The console would come with a Kinect sensor bundled in and always active. All games would be distributed digitally or purchased on disk, but would require an online connection to authenticate and play. Players could not resell, trade, or share physical game discs in the traditional way. Instead, Microsoft would manage a digital ecosystem where ownership was tied to accounts rather than physical media. On paper, from a corporate perspective, this made sense. It would reduce piracy, allow Microsoft to manage the supply chain more efficiently, and create opportunities for new revenue models. The company presented it as the future of gaming, an inevitable evolution. However, what Microsoft had not anticipated was the strength of consumer backlash. Gamers, journalists, and commentators erupted in criticism. The always online requirement was particularly controversial because it meant that without an internet connection, the console would not function. For players with unreliable internet, traveling gamers, or anyone in a situation without broadband, the console would be essentially unusable for single-player games. The backlash was so severe that within weeks Microsoft had to backtrack. In June 2013, just weeks after the announcement, the company reversed nearly every controversial aspect of the original vision. The always online requirement was dropped. Physical games could be played without authentication. The Kinect requirement was removed, and the console became available without the sensor as an optional accessory. The digital distribution mandate became optional rather than mandatory. This reversal was humbling for Microsoft, but it was also crucial. The company had listened to its customers and adjusted its strategy accordingly. However, the damage to consumer perception had been done. Gamers had already formed the opinion that Microsoft did not understand them or what they wanted. Many had already pledged their allegiance to the PlayStation 4, which had made a point of emphasizing that would support physical media, resale, and no always online requirement. The removal of Kinect from the standard package was particularly significant. Just a few years earlier, Kinect had been so central to Microsoft's vision that every Xbox was bundled with one. Now, acknowledging that it had not found the success that Microsoft had hoped for, the company was making it optional. This decision also reduced the price of the Xbox One by $100 compared to the original Kinect bundle configuration, making it more price competitive with the PlayStation 4. The Xbox One that ultimately launched in November 2013 was a different product from what had been announced. It was more traditional, more conservative, and more aligned with what consumers expected from a gaming console. However, the perception damage meant that the Xbox One started its generation significantly behind the PlayStation 4 in terms of pre-orders and consumer sentiment. Microsoft would spend the next several years trying to recover that lost trust and ground. Paradoxically, despite the controversial launch, the Xbox One was technically very comparable to the PlayStation 4. Both consoles use similar AMD-based processors and graphics cards. The Xbox One's graphics processing unit was slightly less powerful than the PlayStation 4's, a fact that influenced which console would perform better in multi-platform games throughout the generation. The Xbox One shipped with 8 GB of RAM and a 512 GB hard drive as standard. The Xbox One's initial launch lineup was respectable, but not exceptional. The console shipped with titles like Dead Rising 3, an exclusive launch title that had been an Xbox 360 franchise, Forza Motorsport 5, the latest iteration of Microsoft's racing franchise, was a launch exclusive. These were solid games, but they were not system sellers in the way that Halo had been for the original Xbox or Killzone had been for the PlayStation 4. The launch was steady but uninspiring. Over the early months and years of the Xbox One generation, the software library expanded. Halo 5 arrived in October 2015, continuing the franchise that Microsoft had built since the original Xbox. The game featured a campaign and multiplayer components, though the campaign was considered less compelling than previous entries in the series by some critics. Quantum Break was released in April 2016, a game that attempted to blur the lines between television and gaming, with live-action video sequences interspersed with gameplay. The Xbox One's library would gradually improve and expand. Backward compatibility with Xbox 360 games became a major feature, with Microsoft allowing players to play hundreds of previous generation games on the new console. This was a significant differentiator compared to PlayStation 4, which offered no backward compatibility with PlayStation 3 games at launch. The ability to play older games contributed to the perceived value of the Xbox One and gave the console access to a massive library of proven titles. Recognizing that the PlayStation 4 had gained a significant advantage in perception and sales, Microsoft introduced the Xbox One X in November 2017. This was a higher-powered version of the Xbox One, offering substantially improved graphics processing capabilities and the ability to play games in 4000 resolution, a first for a gaming console at the time. The Xbox One X was positioned as the most powerful console ever made, a claim that was technically accurate at the time of its release. The Xbox One X was expensive, launching at $499, the same price as the original Xbox One at launch. But for enthusiast gamers and those with 4000 resolution television sets, it offered a compelling upgrade path. The strategy was to appeal to the high-end market segment while continuing to support the lower-powered Xbox One S model that Microsoft had released in 2016 for a lower price point. This two-tier approach meant that Xbox games needed to scale well across different hardware configurations, something PlayStation 4 games did not have to do until the PlayStation 4 Pro. Throughout the Xbox One generation, the console gradually regained market share and mindshare lost in the controversial launch period. Games like backward compatibility, Game Pass, and the overall software library helped rebuild consumer confidence. However, the PlayStation 4 maintained a commanding lead in terms of total installed base and exclusive game offerings. While Xbox One had strong exclusive franchises like Halo, Forza, and Gears of War, PlayStation 4 had more exclusive titles overall and a perceived edge in narrative-driven single-player experiences. In June 2016, Microsoft announced Xbox Game Pass, a subscription service that offered players access to a library of games for a monthly fee. The concept was not entirely new. PlayStation Plus had offered free games to subscribers, and other subscription services existed in the market. However, Xbox Game Pass was presented as something more ambitious. It was described as the Netflix of gaming, a service where players could access hundreds of games as part of a monthly subscription without purchasing individual titles. The initial Game Pass library contained over 100 games, including popular Microsoft franchises like Halo, Forza, Gears of War, and others. First-party Microsoft games would be available on day one of their release, included in the Game Pass subscription. This was revolutionary from a publisher perspective. Most publishers would never include their new full-price releases in a subscription service. But Microsoft was essentially publishing many of these games itself, so including them in Game Pass was strategic. It meant that players subscribed to Game Pass would have access to the latest Microsoft games immediately. The subscription cost initially $15 per month, or $120 per year. This was more expensive than PlayStation Plus, which cost $60 per year for a limited selection of free games. However, the value proposition was different. Rather than a limited selection of rotating free games, Game Pass offered an expansive library where players could theoretically access thousands of games they owned, included with their subscription. Game Pass launched on Xbox One and later expanded to personal computers through Xbox Game Pass for PC. The service grew dramatically over the following years. The library expanded from around 100 games to eventually over 500 games. Microsoft made strategic deals with publishers to include major titles in the service. Games like Doom, The Outer Worlds, and numerous others were added to the library, increasing the perceived value of the subscription. From a business perspective, Game Pass represented a fundamental shift in how Microsoft approached gaming. Rather than relying primarily on selling individual games at $60 each, Microsoft was building a subscription-based recurring revenue model. This meant predictable, steady revenue from millions of subscribers, as opposed to the boom and bust cycle of individual game releases. This business model shift had several strategic implications. First, it meant that Microsoft was prioritizing engagement and long-term player relationships over single transactions. A player who subscribed to Game Pass might play dozens of games throughout their subscription, whereas they might have only purchased 2 or 3 games at retail pricing. Second, it changed how success was measured. Rather than looking at individual game sales, Microsoft began looking at subscriber growth and engagement metrics. Third, and perhaps most importantly, Game Pass fundamentally changed the value proposition of owning an Xbox. For years, the console wars has been fought primarily on hardware power, exclusive games, and online services. Game Pass added another dimension. A player could buy an Xbox One and immediately have access to 500 games without purchasing any of them individually. This lowered the barrier to entry for the platform and increased the perceived value of purchasing the hardware. The service also changed how developers approach game design and monetization. Games included in Game Pass needed to find alternative revenue streams since they were not being sold individually at premium prices. Some relied on cosmetics and Battle Pass systems within free-to-play game sections. Others leveraged in-game purchases. Microsoft also experimented with allowing developers to create games with the assumption that they would be available on Game Pass, shifting the design philosophy toward player engagement and retention, rather than simply selling copies. Game Pass's success and the capital required to sustain and grow it as a service led Microsoft to pursue aggressive acquisition of studios and publishers. In September 2020, Microsoft announced its intention to acquire ZeniMax Media. the parent company of Bethesda Softworks and ID Software, for $7.5 billion. This was the largest gaming acquisition in history at that time, and it represented a massive bet on Game Pass. Bethesda owned numerous valuable franchises, including The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, and Dishonored, among others. By acquiring ZeniMax, Microsoft was essentially guaranteeing that all Bethesda games would be available on Game Pass on day one of release. This was a powerful incentive for players to maintain their Game Pass subscriptions. Bethesda also developed for PlayStation and other platforms, but the acquisition suggested that Microsoft was not prioritizing multi-platform releases equally. This acquisition strategy represented a major shift in the gaming industry. Rather than relying on third-party publishers and developers as external partners, Microsoft was bringing major studios in-house. The company also acquired other studios like Ninja Theory, Playable Minds, and others during this period. Each acquisition increased the amount of exclusive content available on Game Pass and reduced the likelihood that major releases would be available on competing platforms like PlayStation. The aggressive acquisition strategy raised questions about the health of the gaming industry. Large corporations were consolidating power and ownership of franchises and studios. This reduced the diversity of game development leadership and potentially limited the voices that could create games independently of corporate interests. However, it also meant that smaller studios that might have struggled financially could gain the backing of a major corporation and access to Game Pass's distribution network. In June 2020, Microsoft announced the next generation of Xbox consoles. Rather than a single new console, Microsoft announced two: the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. This dual console strategy was novel in the modern console market. The Series X was positioned as the premium, most powerful console, while the Series S was a lower-powered, lower-priced option designed for players with less demanding requirements or budget constraints. The Xbox Series X represented a significant step forward in raw computing power. It featured a custom AMD processor with 8 cores, significantly improved graphics processing capabilities, and 16 GB of RAM. Crucially, it introduced a new custom solid-state drive technology that allowed for dramatically faster loading times compared to previous generations. Games that took 20 to 30 seconds to load on Xbox One could load in under 2 seconds on Series X. This was not merely a cosmetic improvement. Faster loading times meant that game design could be fundamentally different, with seamless loading transitions and more expansive worlds. The Xbox Series S, by contrast, was less powerful, but still represented a significant leap from Xbox One. It featured similar processing architecture to the Series X, but with fewer compute units, lower RAM, and a smaller storage drive. The Series S was priced at $299 at launch, while the Series X launched at $499. This pricing strategy meant that players could choose the console that fit their needs and budget. The Series S was specifically targeted at players who wanted next-generation gaming experiences without requiring the most powerful hardware, or who had smaller television screens without 4000 resolution support. One of the most distinctive features of the Xbox Series X and S was the emphasis on backward compatibility. Microsoft had learned from the PlayStation generation that many players valued the ability to play games from previous generations on new hardware. The company committed to ensuring that the vast majority of Xbox One, Xbox 360, and even original Xbox games would be playable on Series X and S, often with performance improvements. This backward compatibility went even further than previous generations. Not only could games from previous Xbox generations be played on Series X and S, but many of them received enhancements specifically for the new hardware. Games would run at higher frame rates, with improved graphics settings, or with faster loading times. Developers could patch old games to take advantage of Series X and S hardware, or in some cases, the console handled the enhancements automatically. This approach meant that players' existing game libraries remained valuable and playable, rather than becoming obsolete upon each new console generation. Another significant feature was Quick Resume, a technology that allowed players to suspend multiple games simultaneously and resume them almost instantly from where they left off, without waiting for the games to load. This represented a fundamental change in how players could interact with their game library. Rather than committing to one game session, players could switch between multiple games seamlessly, maintaining the exact state of each one. This feature showcased the dramatic speed improvements offered by the Series X and S's custom storage solutions, and demonstrated how console hardware improvements could translate into fundamentally new user experiences. Recognizing that players might own both Xbox One and Xbox Series XS hardware, Microsoft implemented what it called smart delivery for supported games. Rather than requiring separate purchases for Xbox One and Series XS versions of the same game, smart delivery allowed a single purchase to work across all supported Xbox generations. This was consumer-friendly and addressed concerns about forced upgrades or paying multiple times for essentially the same game. Publishers could support smart delivery on their games, and many major publishers and Microsoft's own studios did so. This system became one of the value propositions of buying an Xbox during the Series XS generation. Players knew that their game library would continue to work on new hardware, and in many cases would actually perform better without requiring any action from the player. The Xbox Series X and S launched on November 10th, 2020. Unlike previous generations, which often suffered from thin launch lineups, the Series XS launched with access to hundreds of games through backward compatibility and Game Pass. However, the native launch titles designed specifically for Series XS were more limited. Halo Infinite, the flagship franchise, was delayed and did not launch until December 2020. This delay was significant because Halo Infinite had been expected to be a launch title, similar to how Halo had launched with the original Xbox. The delay meant that the most anticipated exclusive for the console was not available at launch, which would have been particularly impactful for the Series X, given the lack of other major exclusive titles at launch. Games like Gears Tactics, smart delivery versions of third-party titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and other games were available at launch or shortly thereafter. Game Pass was a significant asset, offering hundreds of games immediately playable on the new console. Players who subscribed to Game Pass could experience the new hardware with a large library without making individual game purchases. The launch was widely considered successful from a technical and service perspective, even if the exclusive game library at launch was not particularly impressive. The hardware was powerful, the backward compatibility worked well, and Game Pass offered tremendous value. However, the lack of exclusive titles that truly showcased the unique capabilities of the new hardware was a missed opportunity, and it contributed to a narrative that Microsoft was relying on services and Game Pass more than developing exclusive games. In September 2020, Microsoft announced its acquisition of ZeniMax Media for $7.5 billion. ZeniMax was the parent company of Bethesda Softworks, ID Software, Arcane Studios, and several other game development studios. The acquisition was approved in March 2021, making it the largest gaming acquisition in history at that time. The acquisition of ZeniMax was significant for several reasons. First, it gave Microsoft control of major franchises including The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Dishonored, and many others. These franchises represented some of the most successful and beloved game series of the previous decades. Bethesda in particular was known for developing massive, complex games with enormous player bases. The Elder Scrolls Online, for example, had millions of active players. Second, the acquisition represented Microsoft's commitment to the subscription model through Game Pass. By bringing Bethesda and its franchises in-house, Microsoft ensured that all Bethesda games would be available on Game Pass on day one of release. The next Elder Scrolls game, for example, would not be sold exclusively at retail to PlayStation players, then ported to Xbox. Instead, it would be available on Game Pass, making Game Pass significantly more valuable for players interested in major RPG experiences. The acquisition also raised questions about the future of multi-platform support from Bethesda. Bethesda's games had traditionally released across multiple platforms. The Elder Scrolls Online, for example, was available on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and other platforms. However, with Microsoft's ownership, there was speculation and concern about whether future Bethesda games would be exclusive to Xbox and PC, or whether they would continue to support PlayStation platforms. In January 2022, Microsoft announced an even larger acquisition. The company was acquiring Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, making it the largest gaming acquisition in history by a significant margin. Activision Blizzard was one of the largest game publishers in the world, with franchises including Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, and numerous others. The publisher had also been embroiled in various controversies related to workplace culture and harassment issues. The Activision Blizzard acquisition was particularly controversial for several reasons. First, the price was extraordinarily high. $68.7 billion represented an enormous investment, and the regulatory bodies in various countries began scrutinizing the acquisition to determine if it would constitute an undue consolidation of market power in the gaming industry. Second, the acquisition raised questions about Microsoft's intentions. By acquiring Activision Blizzard, Microsoft was gaining control of some of the most popular and successful franchises in gaming, including Call of Duty, one of the highest-selling game franchises of all time. If Call of Duty and other Activision Blizzard franchises were made exclusive to Xbox and Game Pass, Microsoft would have an unprecedented advantage in the console market. However, Microsoft faced pressure from regulators and from Sony to maintain multi-platform support for these franchises, at least in the near term. The regulatory process for the Activision Blizzard acquisition was lengthy and contentious. The United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority raised concerns about the acquisition. Regulators in the United States and other countries also examined the acquisition carefully. The deal was ultimately approved in October 2023, but with conditions requiring Microsoft to support certain franchises on other platforms. These acquisitions represented a fundamental shift in the gaming industry's structure. Rather than a diverse ecosystem of independent studios, publishers, and platform holders competing on equal footing, the industry was consolidating into the hands of a few large corporations. Microsoft, Sony, and Tencent, through its ownership of various studios and publishers, were accumulating more and more of the industry's creative and intellectual property assets. From Microsoft's perspective, these acquisitions were strategically necessary. Sony was seen as having a stronger exclusive game library, particularly for narrative-driven single-player experiences. By acquiring studios and publishers like Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, Microsoft was attempting to level the playing field and ensure that Game Pass would offer compelling reasons for players to choose Xbox and Game Pass over PlayStation. From a broader industry perspective, the acquisitions raised concerns about diversity, innovation, and the independence of game creators. Small studios that might have previously remained independent or been acquired by mid-sized publishers now faced acquisition by massive corporations, or the threat of being sidelined by the market dominance of those corporations. Creative independence and diverse voices faced pressure from an industry consolidating around a few major platforms and publishers. The acquisitions also had labor implications. As studios were integrated into Microsoft or other large corporations, the specific culture and identity of those studios often changed. Layoffs occurred as redundancies were eliminated. This created uncertainty and instability for workers in the gaming industry, who saw increasing consolidation and occasional mass layoffs despite continued industry growth and profitability. Perhaps the single most important cultural contribution that Xbox made to gaming was Xbox Live. While online gaming had existed before Xbox Live, the service was the first to create a unified, console-based online ecosystem that was accessible to ordinary gamers without requiring specialized knowledge or technical expertise. Xbox Live was not perfect at launch, but it was transformative in scope and ambition. Xbox Live created the template that subsequent gaming platforms would follow. The combination of unified accounts, friends lists, parties, voice chat, and achievements created a social framework around gaming that extended beyond individual games. Players formed friendships through Xbox Live that persisted across games and across years. Communities formed around specific games and franchises. The service made gaming social in a way that arcade cabinets and early console games could never be. The voice chat feature deserves particular emphasis in this regard. While voice chat in games had existed before Xbox Live, it was never as seamless or ubiquitous. On Xbox Live, pulling out a microphone and talking to teammates or opponents became as normal as holding a controller. For many people, particularly younger players, Xbox Live voice chat was their first experience with networked social interaction. Some of those friendships formed in online games lasted for decades. This social infrastructure also created new forms of toxic behavior and harassment. As gaming became more social and competitive, voice chat also became a vector for racism, sexism, and other forms of abuse. Xbox Live was not unique in this regard, but the prevalence of voice communication made the problem particularly acute. Microsoft and other platform holders gradually implemented tools to help combat harassment, including reporting systems, temporary communication bans, and more aggressive enforcement of community standards. Another significant cultural impact of Xbox's evolution was the normalization of gaming as a service. The original Xbox introduced the concept through Xbox Live. Xbox One and the rise of Game Pass accelerated and expanded this concept. By the time of Xbox Series X success, the idea that games would be continuously updated with patches, content, and monetization systems was not controversial, but expected. This shift had profound implications for how games were designed and how players interacted with them. Rather than games being finished products released on a specific date, they became ongoing services designed to keep players engaged indefinitely. Games included cosmetic purchases, battle passes, seasonal content, and other monetization systems that were once relegated to free-to-play games, but gradually became standard even for $60 retail releases. From the perspective of players who enjoyed long-term engagement with a single game, this was often positive. Games like Destiny, Fortnite, Halo Infinite, and countless others created rich communities of players who logged in regularly to experience new content and compete with friends. However, for players who preferred finished, self-contained experiences, the shift toward games as services was sometimes frustrating. The rise of Game Pass also changed expectations around game ownership. Rather than owning games permanently, subscription service players borrowed access to them. If a game was removed from Game Pass, players lost access to it unless they purchased it separately. This created a new form of digital fragility, where collections of games could disappear if subscription services removed them. This raised questions about the future of game preservation and whether digital subscription games would be as accessible to future generations as physical media had been. Xbox and Microsoft have played a significant role in the evolution of esports and competitive gaming. Starting with Halo 3 in 2007, which spawned competitive tournaments and professional players, Xbox became a platform for serious competitive gaming. The Halo Championship Series and later the Halo World Championships became major esports events with substantial prize pools. Gears of War also became an esports title, with professional teams competing for sponsorship and prize money. Call of Duty tournaments, initially on Xbox but later expanded to include other platforms, became some of the largest esports events in the world. By the time of the Xbox One generation, esports had become a mainstream entertainment medium, with live broadcasts on television and streaming platforms, professional teams with corporate sponsors, and prize pools reaching millions of dollars. Microsoft invested directly in esports through initiatives like the Xbox competitive gaming team and partnerships with esports organizations and broadcasters. The company supported tournament infrastructure and provided development tools to studios creating competitive games. This investment reflected an understanding that esports were not just a niche enthusiast activity, but a legitimate form of entertainment with significant growth potential. For millions of people, Xbox is inseparable from childhood and adolescent memories. The original Xbox and Halo are associated with sleepovers and friendships for people now in their 30s. The Xbox 360 and Xbox Live represent formative social experiences for people now in their 20s and late teens. The memories are often more about the social experiences and the people they played with than the specific technical features of the hardware. Gaming has become a significant part of youth culture, and Xbox has been a major platform through which that culture has manifested. The inside jokes of Xbox Live, the legendary Halo moments, the friendships formed through online gaming, and the countless hours spent in virtual worlds have shaped the identity of generations of players. Parents who grew up with Xbox are now introducing their own children to the platform, creating a cycle of cultural transmission. This cultural embedding of Xbox in generational identity is perhaps one of the most significant achievements of the platform. It is not something that can be quantified in terms of sales figures or processing power, but it represents a genuine impact on the culture and the lives of millions of people. One of the most ambitious projects that Microsoft is pursuing is cloud gaming through Project xCloud, now integrated into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. The vision is that players will not need to purchase expensive hardware. Instead, games will be streamed from powerful servers in data centers to players' devices, whether those devices are smartphones, tablets, low-powered laptops, or other hardware. Cloud gaming technology is not new. OnLive attempted this in the early 2010s but failed, primarily due to latency issues and lack of internet infrastructure. However, the technology has improved significantly. Microsoft's cloud infrastructure through Azure is extensive and sophisticated. By hosting game servers in multiple geographic regions, Microsoft can minimize latency and provide players with access to games stream to their local devices with minimal delay. The promise of cloud gaming is democratization. Rather than requiring an expensive console purchase to play the latest games, players could stream games on relatively inexpensive or older hardware. A smartphone, a tablet, or a low-cost streaming stick could become a gaming platform. This could expand the total addressable market for gaming by making it more accessible to people who could not justify or afford a console purchase. However, cloud gaming faces significant challenges. Internet infrastructure in many parts of the world is not yet sufficiently reliable or fast for high-quality cloud gaming at scale. The technology can reduce costs and hardware requirements, but it also introduces latency, potential compression artifacts, and ongoing streaming costs. Regulatory questions about data centers and server locations in different countries remain unresolved. Building the infrastructure necessary to support cloud gaming at global scale would require massive capital investments. Microsoft has recognized that mobile gaming is a massive market, potentially larger than console gaming. Through acquisitions like Activision Blizzard, which include successful mobile franchises, and through Game Pass for mobile devices, Microsoft is expanding Xbox's presence beyond traditional consoles. The strategy appears to be creating an Xbox ecosystem that spans multiple devices. A player might play a game on an Xbox Series X at home, continue the same game through cloud gaming on a smartphone during their commute, and then access a different game on their PC. This unified ecosystem, with one account, one Game Pass subscription, and one set of friends and achievements across devices, could become a significant competitive advantage. Mobile games have also become increasingly sophisticated and capable of console-like experiences. Games like Genshin Impact and others demonstrate that mobile platforms can deliver compelling, high-quality gaming experiences. By making Game Pass available on mobile devices and by acquiring successful mobile studios and franchises, Microsoft is positioning itself to compete in this growing market. Artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly important in game development. Microsoft, as a company investing heavily in AI through projects like Copilot and other AI initiatives, has significant expertise and resources in this area. AI could be used to create more intelligent non-player characters, to personalize gaming experiences, to generate content dynamically, or to create entirely new forms of gameplay. There is speculation about how AI might change gaming in the future. Some worry about potential negative impacts such as AI-generated content displacing human creators, or AI systems making decisions about what content players should see. Others are excited about the possibilities, including AI-assisted game design, more responsive and intelligent opponents, and gameplay experiences that adapt to individual players. Microsoft, through Game Pass and its investment in AI research, is positioned to experiment with and potentially pioneer new forms of AI-enhanced gaming. Whether these experiments succeed or fail, AI will almost certainly play an increasingly significant role in gaming over the coming years. One ongoing question is whether Microsoft will continue to make exclusive console hardware. In recent years, the company has moved away from the idea of Xbox as simply a physical console. Instead, Xbox is being reframed as a service and a collection of games available across multiple devices and platforms. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has suggested that Microsoft's long-term vision might not involve exclusive hardware. Instead, Xbox could become a software and service platform available on any device. This would be a significant departure from the traditional console business model, where manufacturers compete partially through exclusive hardware and exclusive games. However, hardware exclusivity has been central to Xbox's identity and business model for over 2 decades. Whether Microsoft would actually abandon hardware exclusivity, or whether they would maintain it while also expanding Xbox to other platforms, remains to be seen. The answer will significantly influence the future of console gaming and competition between Microsoft and Sony. The future of Xbox is also tied to its relationship with competitors. For decades, Xbox and PlayStation have competed fiercely, each striving to gain market share and mind share. However, Microsoft's expansion to mobile and cloud gaming, combined with the move towards services and subscription models, has changed the nature of this competition. Rather than competing primarily as console manufacturers, Microsoft and Sony are increasingly competing as software and services companies. This creates potential for new forms of cooperation and competition. For example, both companies might benefit from industry standards around cloud gaming, data formats, or other technical matters. However, they also compete directly for players, for exclusive content, and for control of emerging technologies. Nintendo, with its unique positioning around motion controls and portable gaming, occupies a different part of the market. Xbox and PlayStation compete much more directly with each other than with Nintendo. However, Nintendo's success with the Switch and its continuing innovation in game design and hardware design have demonstrated that it remains a formidable player in the gaming industry, despite being somewhat less powerful than Xbox and PlayStation. The future of these competitive relationships will shape the future of gaming. Whether they consolidate further through additional acquisitions, whether they cooperate on technical standards, or whether they remain as fierce competitors will determine the structure of the gaming industry and ultimately the experiences available to players. As we reflect on over 20 years of Xbox history, what emerges is a story of a company that entered an industry where it was not invited, faced enormous skepticism, and then fundamentally changed that industry through innovation, investment, and willingness to learn from mistakes and pivot strategy when necessary. The original Xbox was not a guaranteed success. Microsoft was known for software and personal computers, not for consumer electronics or entertainment. The PlayStation had already dominated the market. Nintendo had a legacy stretching back decades. Yet Microsoft pressed forward, and the original Xbox, through hardware innovations like the hard drive and through Xbox Live, established Microsoft as a genuine competitor in the console space. The Xbox 360 represented the peak of Xbox's dominance in a single generation. The console sold over 84 million units, making it one of the most successful consoles in history. The library of games was diverse and impressive. Xbox Live had matured into the gold standard for online console gaming. For many players, the Xbox 360 is their favourite gaming console, representing a golden age of gaming. The Xbox One generation was tumultuous, with a controversial launch and years of recovery. However, this period also saw the rise of Game Pass, which arguably represented a bigger shift in gaming than any hardware innovation. Game Pass demonstrated that a subscription model could work at scale in gaming, and it opened new possibilities for how games could be distributed and monetized. The Xbox Series X and S continued the evolution towards services and accessibility. The powerful hardware combined with backward compatibility, cross-generational support, and the massive Game Pass library created a compelling value proposition. The focus on making gaming accessible across multiple devices and price points represented a democratization of gaming technology. If we step back and look at the broader history of Xbox, several lessons emerge that extend beyond gaming into broader business and technology domains. First, innovation requires risk. Microsoft took enormous risks entering the console market. risking billions of dollars based on a belief that they could create something valuable. Those risks sometimes paid off spectacularly, and sometimes resulted in failures like Kinect. But the willingness to take risks, to experiment, and to try new things was crucial to Xbox's success. Second, listening to customers and being willing to pivot is essential. The Xbox One's original vision was fundamentally misaligned with what customers wanted. Rather than stubbornly persisting, Microsoft listened to customer feedback, acknowledged the mistakes, and adjusted course. This humility and flexibility were crucial to the console's eventual success and to Microsoft's credibility with consumers. Third, services and recurring revenue models can be as important as hardware. While Xbox hardware generated revenue and was important for the brand, Xbox Live and Game Pass proved to be equally or more valuable than the hardware itself. These services created ongoing relationships with customers and provided predictable revenue streams that allowed for longer-term planning and investment. Fourth, brand and community matter enormously. Xbox's cultural impact, particularly through Xbox Live and the friendships and communities formed through the service, was more valuable than any individual technical specification. The emotional connections people formed with Xbox, with the games on the platform and with the friends they met through gaming were what ultimately determined whether Xbox succeeded or failed. As of the present day in 2024, Xbox remains a major player in the gaming industry. The Xbox Series X and Series S remain current generation consoles, competing with the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. Game Pass has become a significant service with millions of subscribers. Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda and Activision Blizzard have fundamentally changed the gaming industry landscape. However, there are also challenges. The exclusive game library for Xbox has been perceived by some critics as smaller or less compelling than PlayStation's offerings. The high-profile delays and cancellations of some anticipated Xbox exclusives have created concerns about whether Microsoft will maintain sufficient exclusive content to justify the platform. The integration of Bethesda and Activision Blizzard acquisitions is ongoing, with questions about how these studios' future games will be positioned and marketed. Cloud gaming remains in its early stages, with infrastructure and internet connectivity still limiting its potential. Mobile gaming expansion is proceeding but faces challenges from entrenched competitors and the fragmented nature of the mobile gaming market. Competition from Sony, Nintendo, and the rise of mobile and PC gaming means that Xbox must continue to innovate and invest to maintain its market position. The legacy of Xbox is multifaceted and complex. On one level, it is a commercial success story. Microsoft entered a market it did not dominate and became one of the two major players in a multi-billion-dollar industry. Xbox hardware has sold hundreds of millions of units. Xbox Live became the template for online gaming services. Game Pass revolutionized how games are distributed and monetized. On another level, Xbox is a cultural phenomenon. Generations of gamers have grown up with Xbox. The platform is inseparable from the memories and identities of millions of people. Halo is an iconic franchise that shaped how we think about console first-person shooters. Xbox Live friendships persist decades later. The social infrastructure that Xbox created changed gaming from a solitary activity into a social one. On a third level, Xbox represents a particular vision of what gaming could be. That vision has evolved over the years. The original Xbox represented the vision of a personal computer company, bringing computing power and innovation to the console space. The Xbox 360 represented the vision of a dominant platform, with a diverse library of amazing games and a thriving online community. Game Pass represents a vision of gaming as a service, where players have access to hundreds of games, rather than purchasing individual titles. Cloud gaming and mobile expansion represent a vision of gaming as a ubiquitous, accessible activity available on any device. Whether this vision of ubiquitous, service-based gaming will prove compelling to players and sustainable from a business perspective remains to be seen. However, Microsoft has demonstrated a capacity to adapt, to learn from failures, and to invest in the future. Xbox will likely continue to evolve and change, adapting to new technologies, new player preferences, and new competitive dynamics. Beyond Xbox's direct success and legacy, the platform has had significant impacts on the broader gaming industry. The success of Xbox Live forced competitors to invest in and improve their own online services. The success of first-person shooters on console, enabled by games like Halo, influenced an entire generation of console game development. The rise of subscription services and game services has influenced how the entire industry approaches business models and monetization. The acquisitions of major studios and publishers by Microsoft have triggered consolidation across the industry. While there are concerns about this consolidation, it has also resulted in investments in game development, in preservation of game libraries through backward compatibility, and in the expansion of gaming to new audiences and new devices. The technological innovations pioneered or perfected by Xbox have influenced the entire gaming industry. The custom storage solutions developed for Series X and S influenced how PlayStation designed its own storage systems. The backward compatibility initiative set a precedent for how next-generation consoles should approach legacy game support. The cloud gaming infrastructure that Microsoft is building will likely influence how other companies approach cloud gaming. The history of Xbox is not a completed narrative, but an ongoing story. The console and the services built around it continue to evolve, to adapt, and to shape the gaming landscape. As we look toward the future, questions remain about what Xbox will become, whether hardware exclusivity will persist, whether cloud gaming will achieve mainstream adoption, and whether Game Pass will remain the primary distribution channel for games on the platform. What is certain is that Xbox has fundamentally changed gaming. It introduced innovations that became industry standard. It created a platform and a community that shaped the lives and memories of millions of people. It demonstrated that business models, services, and community could be as important as hardware specifications and exclusive games. For those who grew up with Xbox, from the original console through the current generation, the platform is more than just hardware. It is a collection of memories, friendships, and experiences. It is a part of their gaming identity and their broader cultural identity. That human impact, measured in the countless friendships formed, the competitions won and lost, the stories shared, and the communities built, is perhaps the truest measure of Xbox's success and its lasting legacy in gaming history. As this gentle journey through Xbox's history comes to a close, consider the role that this platform has played in your own life and gaming experiences. Whether you've been with Xbox since the beginning or are just discovering it now, you are participating in a story that has already lasted over 2 decades and will likely continue for many more. The console wars may be fierce and competitive, but the community that Xbox has built is fundamentally based on shared passion, shared experiences, and the belief that gaming can bring people together across vast distances and diverse backgrounds. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through this comprehensive history of Xbox. If you enjoyed this journey through gaming history and technology evolution, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share your own Xbox memories or thoughts in the comments below. It helps other curious minds discover this channel and join our community of sleepy tech enthusiasts. As you settle in to rest, let the warm glow of nostalgia and the comfort of shared gaming memories carry you gently towards sleep. Whether you're thinking of that first time you played Halo, the friends you made through Xbox Live, or the countless hours you spent in digital worlds, those memories are a testament to the power of interactive entertainment to create meaning, connection, and joy in our lives. The story of Xbox continues to unfold, and you're invited to be part of it, whether as a long-time player, a newcomer, or simply as someone who appreciates the intersection of technology, business, community, and culture. Until next time, rest well and dream of worlds yet to be explored. Good night.